I'm going to call the May 9th, 2019 meeting of the Hays City Commission to order. Next item on the agenda, consider approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held on April 25th, 2019. Are there any changes or corrections? No, sir. Hearing none, they're approved as presented. Public comments. I want to welcome everyone both in chambers and at home watching the City Commission. This is your part of the agenda. If you have any comments about a non-agenda item, you're welcome to come forward now. Hearing none, we're going to move on to consent agenda, items to be approved by the commission in one motion, unless objections are raised. There are three items for consideration, actually two items for consideration tonight. Sierra Malt Beverage license application for the Disabled American Veterans Bike Show Swap Meet, a mayoral appointment to the Hays Convention and Visitors Bureau. That is Reese Barrick with Sternberg. And I also have one recommendation to be approved at a future meeting, John Griffith with Comfort Inn Suites North.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right. No unfinished business. Move on to new business. 2019 well rehabilitation award of bid. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Crispin, Director of Water Resources. City staff performs routine maintenance on wells by acidizing and disinfecting the wells in an effort to improve its performance. When our maintenance efforts in-house can no longer improve the performance of the well, professional rehabilitation is necessary. Professional rehabilitation is periodically required during the life of a well, as groundwater contains bacteria and minerals which causes wells to plug. Screens, gravel pack, and formations may become blocked, reducing the capacity and the efficiency of the well. And for purposes of reference, what I'm referring to when I refer to the screen is the bottom portion here of that well example. The buildup reduces the amount of water that can be pumped to the surface. Rehabilitating wells extends the life of the wells, of each well, reduces electricity to pump the water, and thus the cost to produce the water. It allows the water to get through the screen easier. These are the locations for the wells. Staff have solicited bids for the 2019 project to perform maintenance on these production wells. We have in the city, we have C20T, kind of in the middle of the city by 15th and Milner, YE1, which is located in the northwest portion of the city, S8, which is Smoky 8, S16, S19, and S23. All of those four along the Smoky Hill River down by Shinshin. Based on our well records that we have, these were identified to be the wells that needed the most attention. There is no one answer to how often a well should be professionally rehabilitated. The usage of the well, the media, the formation, are all factors that play into how often that we need to rehabilitate or have those completed. We have performed routine maintenance on those wells, those 6 wells from 2014 to 2018, and we will continue to go forward on all production wells as we move forward. The last major rehab of these wells were completed between 1998 and 2000. The following pictures are the actual locations of those wells, and you may see the actual well or the well house that it's located. So C20T, that's a city well. YE1 is a city well. S16, and then these are the houses for S8, S19, and S23. Those are all located down in Shinshin. The contractor will be required to perform a pre-work performance test of each well before they pull the well for inspection, and they will make repairs as necessary to those wells. That pre-inspection will establish how that well is operating before we do the test or do the rehabilitation. A camera will be lowered into the well to inspect the screens at the bottom of each well. High pressure jetting, chemical treatment, and mechanical methods will be used to clean the screens and formations at the bottom of these wells. The contractor has a larger selection of methods at their disposal. Once complete, the well will be performance tested and its efficiency compared to like new from when it was originally drilled. So they may have a well that when they test it before they go through this process, it may test out at 65%. After the process is done, it may come back at 85, 90%. They will provide all the information based on that test as well as video to the city for our records. These are some additional photos. These aren't photos of our wells by any means, but this is some examples. This is a screen looking on the side of the screen where it's plugged with all the stuff at the bottom, and then this is the clean portion. This is looking down the well, and then also another shot looking down the well. Additionally, they will have a basket at the bottom of each well when they are doing this process, and they will pull materials back up with them. So heavier materials that may not float up to the surface, such as when we are doing well rehab on our own, that is what you see in this example of what could be pulled out of, materials pulled out of the well. Bids were submitted by 5 contractors with the lowest cost bid coming from Lane Christensen Company of Kearney, Nebraska in the amount of $67,230. I will note on there a couple things. One, Hydro submitted 2 quotes. The light quote, the similar quote with all the other companies, came in at $97,758. But they also proposed some additional methods to clean and extended pump testing that were not required as the scope of this project. Also, why I'm talking about this, I wanted to take an opportunity because it came up last week at the work session to talk about a local vendor. There is no local Ellis County vendor that can perform this work for us at this time. There is one vendor that is working on getting to that point, and when they are, we will be sending a future RFP to that company. But I did see that it was mentioned that this is a national company. Yes, Lane Christensen is a national company, but all of these companies have local offices, regional offices. Lane is in Kearney, Nebraska. Downey is in Garden City, Kansas. Sargent Drilling is mostly in Nebraska, but they have a location in Salina. Hydro is out of Garden City, Kansas, and Clark is out of Great Bend, Kansas. So we are pretty much regionally set as far as these vendors are concerned. Lane Christensen, as I mentioned, of Kearney, Nebraska, submitted the lowest bid at $67,230. The bid is above the budgeted estimate for this year at $48,000. At the time of the project sheet creation, we underestimated the mobilization and materials costs. We do feel that this bid is very reasonable and there are adequate funds available to perform this work. It is our department's intention to be aggressive with this program moving forward. The project sheet that was created for 19 has the intention to move forward in future years. And as we are working on the budget cycle right now for 2020, we have adjusted that budget figure to be more in line with what we see here today. The other thing that I did want to mention, I wanted to clarify too, based on scheduling. Commissioner Melick, you asked last week about if they could or could not be done by June 1st. And the answer to that is not by June 1st, but the contractor is confident that they can be done by July 1st. So it's a little bit further out than you were asking, but I did get that answer from this contractor.
Thank you.
So if you choose to accept this, the city has the following options: accept the low bid from Lane Christensen, direct staff to another option, or do nothing. And this is the action that I would request if you approve.
I move we authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Lane Christensen in the amount of $67,230 for the 2019 well rehabilitation project to be funded from the projects line item in the water production and distribution budget.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor in a second. Is there any discussion?
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes.
I should have asked you this last week. Do you think if, I think we did on the sewer lines, but maybe I'm wrong, that we could, when we send the bids out, ask for like a 2-year bid? Would it drop the price at all, or is that something that's even been considered?
Well, I guess the example, and Toby, you might have to jump in here, but the example I can give is years ago, before my time, we bid out contract sewer line cleaning for multiple years.
Right.
But it was asked that we do come back in that situation to make sure that we are having competitive bids every single year. So that's why we go out on sewer line cleaning every single year, and we don't do a multiple year contract. But that, I believe at the time, that was the
Yeah,
commission's
it was.
ask.
I remember that, so.
I think in an instance like this where it's a year-to-year evaluation,
Mhm.
we think we may have an idea of how many we need to do the following year.
Right.
It's far enough out. Remember, we're doing the budget now for 20. You guys have to have it adopted in August.
Right.
So we'll make our best guess, but, you know, we may need to add more or subtract by then. So it's probably better to do it year by year.
Well, what I do like, in our street projects, we always have, what streets we're gonna do the next 3 to 5 years. And from what you told me last week, I mean, you're gonna have a plan going forward,
Yes.
what we're gonna do. And I think that's important for our community.
So these 6 that we have identified, based on our internal maintenance program, where we go acidize it and then disinfect the next day, those are the 6 wells that we identified that needed the most attention. Now, we are currently working on the next set for the
Yeah,
next year.
that's great.
So it's true. We want to be able to identify which ones we're going to do next year, but that does change based on testing.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion
Thank you.
carries 4-0. Next item, 2019 sidewalk projects, award a bid.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks. I'm here this evening to visit with you about 2 different projects we're requesting for sidewalks for this year. The first one is the Rolling Hills Park area. And basically what we're asking for here is to place a sidewalk along 41st Street connecting to Autumn Lane. There'd be a curb cut there at Autumn Lane, and that would go south on to the alley area at Autumn Lane, where there's also a curb cut, and that would connect to the neighborhood area to the south. The second area is at 13th and Canterbury, and there are various sidewalk locations there. I will get into more details on those in just a second here. At Rolling Hills, I want to point out on the far west side, which is where Hall Street is, there's a curb cut there. The reason we want to run that all the way is because there's no connectivity. If we just stop on the park area and don't utilize the right of way, so the connectivity basically goes away. So we are asking to go from the existing curb cut sidewalk area all the way down 41st Street. It'll actually drop off down into the park area and go all the way to Autumn Lane where it'll turn south. So that'll provide a full connectivity for everybody from the neighborhood to get up to the walking path on 41st Street, which is very popular. We think it's a safe way. You know, I've seen a lot of folks trying to walk on 41st Street, and it's just not safe. At 13th and Canterbury, generally speaking, all of these are connecting to existing sidewalks. So all the red sidewalk areas that you see there are basically just grass and dirt right now. We're trying to get those areas connected. So especially as you look at some of the destination points such as HRC, we think it's important to get folks to down to the HRC area. Also up on 13th Street, there's a short section that's missing. We think it's important for those kids going to Hayes High to be able to get to school without having to walk through the mud and the grass and take other various routes. There is one 8-foot section here, just on the north end of the Hayes Recreation Center. That is requested to be 8 feet wide instead of the standard 5, for possible connectivity in future years here for a multi-use path. Received 4 bids for the project. Dustin Hines Construction was low bid on both areas. In the 2019 special parks budget, we did budget $40,000 for the Rolling Hills Park sidewalks. And in the special highway fund for 2019, we have $68,000 available for various sidewalk projects, including the locations at 13th and Canterbury. These are your options to accept a low bid from Dustin Hines Construction, direct staff to another option, or do nothing. And of course, we would recommend the low bid. The low bidder has done a lot of work for the city. All of the work that they've done has been excellent, and we would recommend a low bid.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to approve purchase order to DHC LLC in the amount of $26,841.90 for sidewalk at Rolling Hills Park to be funded out of Special Park and Recreation Fund, and $35,135.53 for sidewalk in the area of 13th and Canterbury to be funded out of the Special Highway Fund.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
I have just 2 comments, and I'll make the same comment I made last week about 41st Street. I'm really happy that we're doing that. It is a dangerous area up there, and there's a lot of people walking up in that area. So I appreciate that. I also am appreciating that you're looking at this 8-foot stretch that may join into a walkways. Will nothing else that we're putting in have any connectivity to that? Is that?
The best route for the proposed multipath would be would this would cover that, the need for that.
Okay.
That concept will actually be brought back to you later
Yes,
this
sir.
year.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We're just trying to plan ahead,
Sure,
basically.
and I do appreciate that you're planning ahead.
Thank you.
Toby, I have a question. On our current policy, if you develop land, we require you to put the sidewalks in.
Yeah, this is a situation where we are addressing past
Right.
oversights.
Right.
So you're correct. The current policy, the current development policy says that if you build a property out, you put a sidewalk in. And, for example, if you're in a residential area, you have 3 years from 50% build out to put the sidewalk in, to eliminate the connectivity issues. This was a remnant of the policy that said, if it's not built out, you don't put a sidewalk in, and we're not gonna take any consideration what gets built out past that. So what happened here is we had a somewhat undeveloped intersection. There's actually still two corners that are of this intersection undeveloped. And then we built a high school on one quadrant and the Hayes Rec Commission on the other quadrant. The high school, roughly 50% of the people that attend that have no driver's license. And the Rec Commission, a lot of people walk to and from that. But we provided no connectivity. So I would like to think if we were doing that now, we would suggest that even though the property's not developed, you might think about how your patrons are going to access the facility, and why not extend the sidewalk out. But that wasn't the mindset back then. It was we'll just put the sidewalk in whenever we deal with it. And it's led to some of the areas we've been addressing over the last few years. The sidewalk program is we're trying to infill areas that were developed. A good example was 27th and Casey's, the one we put in this year. 27th and Donald, between Indian Trail and Donald. You had a sidewalk going through a commercial corridor, and then nothing because it was undeveloped, and then residential housing that goes a quarter mile to the east to a park without thought of how you're going to get there. And there's a well-worn path in all of these areas where people are actually using it. So that's how we identified the locations, is we looked at where the paths were out in the dirt. And that is a good indicator that people are using that. And plus, I've seen a lot of kids walking to and from school in the rec center.
I like it and I support it. I was asked by some people this week why we were doing that on 13th and Canterbury, and the rec continues to grow. They have more activities there, and I guess my thing is, why would we not connect it? And I love the multi-use path, and I think we all obviously understood from the public. People love multi-use path. Bike lanes, maybe not so much, but they love multi-use path, and I think we should do even more if we can and when we can.
That actually will be brought to you. An east side multi-use path option is going to be brought during the 2020 budget process.
I love it.
I won't be participating in the vote tonight. I also had a number of people contact me. My math isn't good, but I'm one of 11 owners, I think, of 13th and Canterbury. And the concern that I heard was that I was somehow, with this title and my $150 a month, getting a free sidewalk. And I didn't ask for the sidewalk. I didn't know about the sidewalk. And I think you mentioned it last year in passing, but it had nothing to do with me becoming mayor. And in fact, I kind of don't want the sidewalk, actually. But that's neither here nor there. The other owners of the property are the heirs of a gentleman named J.B. Gilmore and Bill Abel. And there's a lot of us, and that's fun to own property with 10 other people, let me tell you. I will say, too, that I also heard some questions about, well, how come I don't get a free sidewalk when I put in my whatever? All right, city manager and I had a pretty strong conversation about that, because the policy is not cut and dried on this. It just says that developers shall and the city may, and so once he explained it, I said that was fine. But I want to make sure that there's enough daylight on this so people understand that I had nothing to do with this. And again, I kind of don't want the sidewalk, but it's here for the commission, and I won't be voting tonight. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. One not voting.
Thanks, Jeff.
General Obligation Bond, Series 2019A Ordinance. This is it. I mean, this is why they're here.
I'm excited.
They got an audit and
Best for last. Tim Rupp, Director of Finance, good evening. And these are two separate agenda items, but I'll presenting as one. I have one slide at the end with both motions for you. I'm here to speak to you about the next set of documents we'll need. Approved to continue with the issuance of GO bonds 2019A to fund improvements to a special assessment district in Hayes. The ordinance will be first. It authorizes the bonds to be issued to pay the cost of the improvements, allows us to levy special assessments, and direct city officials and staff to execute the necessary documents to complete the placement. The action on the resolution is a detail of the bonds, including redemption, security, establishment of funds and accounts, application of bond proceeds, defaults and remedies, continuing disclosure, and other miscellaneous provisions. So you may recall that a few weeks ago, we were set to special assess to two districts within the city of Hayes. These bonds were to pay for the improvements to Heart of America Second Edition project costs totaling $277,836.51, and Kingsgate First Edition park costs totaling $82,163.49, as we had already been through the special assessment proceedings. There was a prepay period for these, and in fact, Heart of America decided to pay in full. We also had several owners in the Kingsgate Edition prepay totaling $16,579.99, leaving a very small bond issue of $65,000.
Wow.
Our only option, as you're aware, for funding project costs that are special assessments is to bond per state statute. So luckily, Bank of Hayes stuck with us and is willing to take the direct bond placement at the significantly reduced issue size. As I mentioned in previous meeting, we did not go out for public offering on these bonds, as doing so would be cost prohibitive given its small size, especially now, and wouldn't be attractive to those bidding. Therefore, we save the cost of a bond rating, underwriting, and official statement printing and distribution by doing a private placement. Bonds are exempt from federal and state income tax. City will designate the bonds as qualified tax-exempt obligations, in other words, bank qualified under the Internal Revenue Code. So this will be a 10-year issue, matching the 10-year special assessment to Kingsgate First Edition, maturing in 2029. This issue will be paid from special assessments to the remaining property owners in Kingsgate through their county tax bill, funded back to the city for the bond reimbursement. Bond proceeds are expected to be available to the city on May 29th, 2019. So pretty straightforward. Action requested tonight is to approve the ordinance and resolution so we may move forward finally with getting these improvements funded. It is listed as two separate items on your agenda, so we are requesting two separate motions.
Motion for the ordinance.
I like a motion to approve ordinance number 3964, authorizing and providing the issuance of general obligation bond series 2019A in a principal amount of $65,000.
Second. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Resolution.
I move we approve the resolution 2019-008, prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing sale and delivery of general obligation bond series 2019A in the principal amount of $65,000.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Who was the second?
Non-mutual.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last business item is selection of replacement city commissioner. The city commission is going to select the replacement for Commissioner James Meyer. James David Meyer.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Eber Phelps for the replacement of James Meyer.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
For me personally, I will tell you, this is my least favorite job being a commissioner. I think this is our third time appointing somebody.
Why are you driving him off?
I don't know. Maybe it's all me. Maybe it's me. I just, you know, to me, and life happens and stuff, but it's, you know, when you run, when I ran, I knew, in my second term, I was opening a brand new business, probably the hardest thing I ever did. But it just, I really believe that we should be the people voting for him, and that we don't have a choice now, state statute, but I think, Eber Phelps, and that guy cares so much about this community. I think he'll do a great job in the 7 months, something like that. So that's why my opinion, we should appoint him.
We have a lot of changes going on right now, and one of them is the City manager is working solo, there's no assistant city manager. So bringing someone up to speed would be rather challenging for all of us at this point. So I appreciate the motion, the second. Is there any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All those abstaining? Motion carries 4-0. Commission inquiries and comments. Before that, do you have anything you'd like to add
I do
tonight?
not.
Okay. Commissioner Melick.
Yes, I would like for us to formally contact the county commission and ask for our percentage of the excess sales tax that was collected. I believe they had indicated they would decide what they were going to do in April, and we still haven't heard anything, so I would like to formally request our percentage of that collected sales tax. Excess.
Very good. Anything else, sir?
Just as a matter of protocol, do the other commissioners concur with that request?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Would you mind making that a motion so I can have some officialness behind it?
To make a motion that we contact the county commission to ask for our excess, the excess money that was collected in their sales tax.
One second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0.
I will send a letter to the county administrator.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs.
The only thing I'd like to comment on and get people kind of thinking about and aware of is Downtown Hayes Development Corporation hosted the vendors for our downtown market last night at kind of a kickoff meeting. And it was very exciting to see 40 people in attendance last night. They're very excited. There's going to be lots of new going on down there. But one of the most exciting things, and I wasn't at the meeting, I just had to hear about it later, but DHDC has agreed to facilitate for those market vendors any online sales that they would like to do. It's going to be kind of interesting because they will like prepare a box. And if you want to go online and pick something from this vendor and something from this vendor and something, they'll box it, they'll ship it, they'll pay for the shipping, they will collect the sales tax, and they will send it away. So as we look at what DHDC brings to the table, we're always saying, what are you doing down there? Well, here's another thing they're doing down there, and the 40 vendors were thrilled. And not only will it help them, but it will help us with collection of sales tax. They don't know how big it can get. I said to the director today, I said, do you have time? And she said, if we need to, we'll find an intern. So I thought that was really exciting. And congratulate them for that.
Vice Mayor.
I have a question for the city manager. I have a lot of people asking, I'm assuming all of us do, about this new truck stop that's coming. There's signs on the interstate that it's coming. And I'm just wondering, do you have an update? Because I don't have an update for the people, and yeah, I'd just like to know what's going on.
The latest on that, and for people that aren't aware of the past history of that, we were contacted several months ago about an entity wishing to develop the property into a travel plaza, hotel, restaurants, rather large development. And discuss with them what would be required for a formal application for economic incentives. As the commission knows, there's a process that the developer needs to follow. So the developer then put forth a $5,000 non-refundable deposit and signed a funding agreement with Grow Hayes. And that puts them in contact with our bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell. And so working with their counsel and our bond counsel, a term sheet is developed that outlays the specifics of the project. What's the project going to look like? What's the dollar amount? What's the financial incentive ask for? What's the time frame of this? And that transitions into the formal application for any of the incentives, and then the incentive process would start. Right now, we know that they have had discussions with our bond counsel. Their attorney has talked with our bond counsel. I have had discussions with the developer, but we do not have the necessary information to put the term sheet together at this time. So right now, and it's in the developer's hands. We have made it very clear to the developer what's needed. Our bond counsel's made it clear what's needed. Doug Williams has made it clear what's needed with Grow Hayes. And we're just waiting for the developer to provide that information. We would like to get a term sheet in front of you as quickly as possible so you can talk about the specifics and hopefully translate this or transition this into a actual incentive request.
And just to clarify, this is exit 157.
Yes.
Tennyson northwest corner. So it's sort of across the street from Celebration.
Thank you. I've just had a lot of people ask me, and I really hadn't heard anything for a while.
When you see billboards go up announcing it's going to happen, you're excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
As we are.
As we are.
Yeah, I support that. I just like to get more information, I guess. Thank you.
I have nothing. Is there an executive session? We are adjourned.